Greetings, dear friends. Your support is our strength. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. This helps the growth of our channel. Leave comments, because feedback is very valuable to us. And now to the most relevant world news. Let's go! Women in assault units of the armed forces of Ukraine. Statement by Denis Pushilin and testimonies of prisoners. Women's assaults. It's a formidable force. In the USSR, despite the declared truce, a new strike was made on the Sudzha measuring station. Now, it is completely destroyed. There will be no gas for the West. Donald Trump warned of the Russian and Chinese threat to Greenland. US President Donald Trump posted a video on social network X in which he spoke about new challenges for Greenland due to Russian activity and Chinese expansion. The division of Greenland has begun, gentlemen. Russia is testing Trump's readiness to ease sanctions, states Bloomberg agency. Russia is playing on nerves. A former US colonel urged Russia to cut off Ukraine from the Black Sea as well. What a twist! Women in assault units of the Ukrainian armed forces. Statement by Denis Pushilin and testimony of prisoners. The head of the DPR, Denis Pushilin, stated that the Ukrainian command has become more active in involving women, not only as auxiliary personnel but also in assault operations. This is reported by the RIA Novosti agency. We are recording women killed on the battlefield. They participate not as drone operators, but specifically as assault troops, said Pushilin. According to him, such cases are noted in the Krasnoarmysk and Zherzhinsk directions. Earlier, a private of the Ukrainian armed forces, Galina Kazimova, who was captured by Russian troops, stated that she was sent into an attack under false pretenses. According to her, some conscripts are forced to go into battle under the threat of violence, including beatings. The problem of the shortage of personnel in the Ukrainian armed forces remains very acute. The Ukrainian authorities are tightening mobilization, but judging by the statements, this leads to the forced deployment of fighters to the front line, including women. In Kyiv, these reports have not been officially commented on. Meanwhile, earlier, there were reports on social media about female assault groups. However, there are no independent confirmations of this yet. The question remains open whether this is a necessary measure due to loss or part of it. The question remains open whether this is a forced measure due to losses or part of some new Ukrainian tactic. But only the further development of events on the front can provide an answer. We are waiting for information. Now, friends, news from the front. At night, enemy monitoring channels reported our strikes with geraniums on targets in the Kyiv, Odessa, Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkiv, Khmelnytsky, Mykolaiv, Cherkasy, and Poltava regions. During the day, the Russian Ministry of Defense once again stated that contrary to Kyiv's claims of allegedly ceasing strikes on Russian energy facilities, the armed forces of Ukraine continued to strike Russia's energy infrastructure. In the Sumy direction, our paratroopers liberated the Sudzha, a station on the border. Simultaneously, a pocket was cleared in the area of the village of Basovska in the Sumy region. From the vicinity of Buyevo in the Kursk region, it was reported yesterday that the armed forces of Ukraine began a chaotic retreat under the pressure of the Marines, from the Caspian, Kamchatka, and units of the 72nd Division, and other of our forces. It was also known about the entry of our troops into the northern and eastern streets. The clearing of the adjacent forests was underway. In the Belgorod border area, our troops continue their defensive operation. Yesterday, the enemy maintained a presence in the areas of Demidovka and Popovka. Reflected about 6 enemy assaults. Accordingly, the enemy was accumulating reserves near the line of combat resistance. For further actions, the North reports that the armed forces of Ukraine, within a day, attempted 9 times on foot and with mobile equipment. They tried to transfer manpower to the Krasnoyarutsky district. And here are the latest strikes on the concentrations of the armed forces of Ukraine, but the enemy still has a significant offensive potential for this direction and does not abandon plans for further breakthroughs, including on new sections of the front. Mandatory evacuation has been announced in the depths of the Krasnopolsky district of the Sumy region. This includes Osoivka, Khmelevka, Veselaya, and Lozovaya. Under the strikes of the armed forces of Ukraine are Belyanka, Nechaevka, Tishanka, Shakovka, Smorodina, and Kukuevka. On the section of the Masycheva-Graivoron highway, a moving vehicle was attacked by a drone. Usually foreign mercenaries or Ukrainian armed forces personnel stay in hotels in Ukraine. A powerful explosion in Dnipropetrovsk. Geraniums are striking enemy targets. Ukrainian media report that there are more than 50 Russian drones in the air. The armed forces of Ukraine, despite the declared ceasefire, have indeed launched a new strike on the Sudzha gas metering station. Now it is completely destroyed, But this is not only a blatant fact of violating the so-called energy truce, but also Ukraine shooting itself in the foot. Since the Nord Streams, those under the guarantee of the USA, will be restored. This is clear. But gas will never go to Europe, through Ukraine again. Meanwhile, an early condition for the operation of the Nord Streams was precisely the preservation of transit through the territory of Ukraine. What will happen next is unknown. Donald Trump warned about the Russian and Chinese threat to Greenland. Greenland is turning into an island of misfortune. US President Donald Trump published a video on social network X in which he spoke about new challenges for Greenland, Russian activity, and Chinese expansion. The video is dedicated to the history of American-Greenlandic friendship, reminding of the joint fight against the Nazis during World War II. However, Trump emphasizes the modern threats. Today, Greenland faces new challenges, he says, from Russian aggression to Chinese expansion. The president called for unity for the sake of peace, security, and the future, indirectly hinting at the need to strengthen ties between the USA and Greenland. This is not the first statement by Trump about the strategic importance of this island for the USA. In the past, he considered the possibility of purchasing Greenland, which elicited a very sharp reaction from Denmark, under whose jurisdiction this autonomous territory falls. Experts associate Trump's new message with the intensification of geopolitical competition in the Arctic, where Russia and China are actively increasing their presence. So far, the official authorities of Russia and China have not commented on Trump's words, but it remains open. The question of whether Greenland will become a new field of global confrontation in the world. Russia is testing Donald Trump's readiness to ease sanctions, claims the ambitious Bloomberg agency. Moscow is developing a strategy to weaken anti-Russian sanctions by testing the Trump administration's readiness to pressure Europe. Oh, that poor old lady, the European Union. This is reported by Bloomberg agency citing its own sources. The key condition here is the connection of Russia's Rosselkhozbank to the SWIFT international payment system in exchange for the resumption of the Black Sea Grain Initiative. According to this publication, Russia deliberately put forward this demand to test whether Trump can persuade the European Union to make concessions. Success with SWIFT could be the first step towards the gradual lifting of the sanctions regime against Russia, analysts note. The day before, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that Washington would consider lifting restrictions as part of resolving the Ukrainian conflict. However, the head of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, emphasized that the EU is maintaining sanctions against Russia. Earlier, Vladimir Zelensky called the potential lifting of sanctions a catastrophe, warning Western partners of the great risks of easing pressure on Moscow. Experts believe that even if Trump is inclined towards dialogue, the European position will remain firm. Will Washington act independently of the EU? The answer to this question will determine the entire future dynamic of sanctions policy. We are waiting for the situation to develop. A former U.S. colonel urged Russia to cut Ukraine off from the Black Sea. Former Chief of Staff to the U.S. Secretary of State Lawrence Wilkerson made an unexpectedly sharp statement calling on Russia to establish full control over Ukraine's Black Sea coast. On the YouTube channel Dialogues Works, the retired colonel stated that Russia should liberate Odessa and completely deprive Ukraine of access to the Black Sea. This would put a definitive end to the conflict. An analytical perspective. Wilkerson is a person known for his criticism of American foreign policy. He effectively voiced a ready scenario that many Western experts call NATO's nightmare. Depriving Ukraine of its seaports, it will completely isolate the country from maritime trade. It will nullify ambitions to become Europe's maritime gateway. It will call into question the entire rationale for further military aid. Reaction of the parties. Meanwhile, while official representatives of the U.S. State Department called it the frequent opinion of a retired military officer, the Russian ministry refrained from any comments on the matter. Kiev called such a statement propaganda of war crimes. Expert assessment, meanwhile. Military analysts note that the direction towards Odessa indeed remains a whose site. Very important in strategic terms. Full control over the coastline will change the entire balance of power in the region itself. However, such an operation would require massive resources from all Russia. And this statement is important not as a call to action, but as an acknowledgement. Even American military personnel understand the strategic significance of the Black Sea coast as a whole. Comments a security issues observer.